I never thought I'd be living in a steel box on wheels. But here I am on day 47, parked in what used to be the loading dock behind the Costco on Brenner Avenue. The Bearcat's engine is silent now, has been for 3 weeks, because I can't risk the noise, and I'm down to maybe a quarter tank of diesel. The infected don't sleep, don't rest, and sound draws them like moths to a flame that'll rip you apart instead of burn you. My name is Dalton Reese, and I'm 28 years old, though I feel about 60 right now. I was a security systems installer before everything went to hell. Not a cop, not military, not anyone particularly qualified to survive the end of the world. Just a guy who showed up to the wrong place at exactly the wrong time, which turned out to be the right time if you measure it by still being alive. The Bearcat, this hulking armored personnel carrier, became mine on day 3 of the outbreak. I say mine loosely because I essentially stole it, though I prefer to think I inherited it from Officers Kip and Valdez, who were already dead when I found it. The vehicle was parked outside the 4th Precinct on Holcomb Street, driver's door hanging open, both officers lying in the street about 20 feet away, with their throats torn out. The engine was still running, the keys were in the ignition, and there were at least 30 of those things shambling down the street toward me. I didn't think. I just ran and dove inside and slammed that heavy door shut and locked it. The window was already smeared with blood, probably Valdez's, based on the handprint pattern. But I could see through it well enough to watch the infected surround the vehicle. They pressed against it, slapping the armor, moaning that wet, rattling sound that still makes my skin crawl. I sat in the driver's seat, hyperventilating, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. That was back when I still thought maybe the military would roll in. Maybe the government had a plan. Maybe this was all temporary. I'd only been separated from my apartment for 6 hours at that point. I'd left that morning to check on my sister Bryony across town. She didn't answer her phone. None of my calls were going through. The emergency broadcast kept looping the same message about staying indoors and avoiding contact with symptomatic individuals. Symptomatic. That's what they called it at first. Like it was the flu. I never made it to Bryony's place. Traffic was gridlocked on the interstate. People were abandoning their cars and running. I saw a man pull a woman out of her sedan and drive off in it while she screamed. I saw a family trying to push through the crowd with a stroller, and the stroller got knocked over. And I didn't see what happened after that because I was too focused on getting off the highway myself. I took the Holcomb Street exit on foot after leaving my Honda Civic on the overpass with about 300 other vehicles. That's when I saw my first infected up close. She was a teenage girl in a school uniform, and half her face was just gone, like something had scooped out the flesh from her left cheek and eye socket. She was chasing a man in a business suit, and she was fast. Not movie zombie fast, but faster than any person should move with those kinds of injuries. She caught him at the corner and bore him down to the pavement, and I heard his screams as I ran in the opposite direction. The precinct building was on fire when I got there. I could see smoke pouring from the upper windows. The front doors were shattered. There were bodies on the steps. And there was the Bearcat, idling in the street like a gift from a god I'm not sure I believe in anymore. I've tried to keep track of the days, making marks on the inside wall of the vehicle with a Sharpie I found in the console. 47 marks. 47 days since the world ended. 47 days since I last spoke to another living person. Unless you count me talking to myself, which I do constantly now, because the silence is worse than the moaning outside. The Bearcat is about 20 feet long and 8 feet wide. The back compartment where I live is maybe 12 by 8. with bench seats along the walls and a few small bulletproof windows that I've mostly covered with duct tape and cardboard to keep light from showing at night. There's a small turret hatch on top that I don't use anymore after what happened on day 19. The driver's compartment is separate, divided by a metal partition with a small door. I sleep in the back, live in the back, piss in empty water bottles in the back, and try very hard not to lose my mind in the back. The armor is thick enough that the infected can't break through. I tested that theory extensively in the first week when I was too terrified to leave the vehicle for any reason. They'll press against it, scratch at it, slam their ruined fists against the panels. I've watched them for hours through the narrow window slits. Their persistence is terrifying. They don't get tired. They don't give up. If they see you or hear you or maybe smell you, I'm still not sure exactly how their senses work. They'll keep coming until something else distracts them, or they literally fall apart from decomposition. That's been happening more lately. The ones from the first wave are getting worse. I saw one 2 days ago that was missing both arms and most of its torso meat. Just a rib cage and spine and legs somehow still functioning. It couldn't do much damage in that state, but it was still trying, still hungry, still moving. Food has been the biggest challenge. The Bearcat didn't come stocked with supplies, just tactical gear, a first aid kit, some road flares, and 2 AR-15 rifles with 4 magazines that I have no idea how to use properly. I've never fired a gun in my life before this. I'm a terrible shot. I've wasted so much ammunition learning how to even load the things. The Costco parking lot where I'm currently stationed is my 3rd location. I started at the precinct, but there were too many infected in that area, and I couldn't get to any buildings safely. I moved to a residential street on day 8, parking in front of a house that looked intact. I managed to get inside during a brief window when the infected had wandered elsewhere, drawn by what sounded like explosions from the industrial district. I found canned soup, crackers, bottled water, and a dead family in the upstairs bedroom who'd apparently chosen pills over becoming those things outside. I didn't stay in that house. Being around bodies that had died peacefully somehow felt worse than the ones torn apart outside. I moved again on day 15, navigating the Bearcat through streets clogged with abandoned vehicles and corpses. The Bearcat can push through obstacles, cars, barricades, debris, like they're made of cardboard. It's powerful and loud and draws every infected thing within a half-mile radius, so I only drive when absolutely necessary. Each trip could be my last if I get surrounded in the wrong place or the engine dies or I run out of fuel. The Costco is perfect, theoretically. It's a massive warehouse full of supplies. The loading dock has a metal rolling door that's partially open, jammed on its track. I can squeeze through into the back warehouse area if I'm careful and fast. The infected can't fit through the gap the same way. They don't problem solve, don't crawl or contort their bodies. They just push and grab and bite. I've made 3 supply runs into the Costco. Each one takes planning, courage I have to scrape together from the bottom of my soul, and luck I'm terrified will run out. The first run was on day 30. I'd been parked here for 2 weeks, watching the patterns. The infected congregate more during the day, drawn by light. At night, they spread out. Around 2 or 3 in the morning, there are usually only a handful near the loading dock. I wait until I can see the parking lot through my narrow window, count the bodies shambling around out there, and choose my moment. I gear up with everything I've gathered. A motorcycle helmet I found in the back of the Bearcat, probably belonged to Kip or Valdez, heavy work gloves, a thick canvas jacket, duct tape wrapped around my forearms and shins. The bites kill you. Everyone knows that by now. The news talked about it before the broadcasts stopped. Bite transmission, fluid contact, Death in 12 to 48 hours, then reanimation. So I armor up as best I can with materials that might stop teeth from reaching skin. The first time I left the Bearcat to enter the Costco, I stood at the door for 20 minutes, hand on the handle, trying to make myself move. My heart was slamming against my ribs. My breathing sounded loud enough to wake the dead, which is a phrase that doesn't feel like a joke anymore. I counted to 3 probably 50 times before I finally opened the door. The night air hit me. Cool. September night, though it feels like the seasons don't matter anymore. The smell hit me worse. Decay, rot, something sweet and wrong. The infected moan and shuffle. I could see 4 of them in the immediate area. 2 near the dumpsters, 1 by the fence, 1 at the far end of the loading dock. I moved fast. I've learned that speed matters more than silence once you're outside. They're going to notice you anyway. Better to be quick. I squeezed through the gap in the rolling door, scraping my shoulder on the metal track. Inside the warehouse was dark. Emergency lights still glowing in some areas, running on backup batteries that'll die eventually. The smell was different in here. Less rot, more mildew and spoiled food from the refrigerated sections that lost power weeks ago. I had a flashlight. I used it sparingly, cupping my hand over it to direct the beam. The warehouse was massive, aisles stretching into shadow. I knew what I needed: water, canned goods, anything that wouldn't spoil. I found a shopping cart and started loading. My hands shook the whole time. Every sound made me freeze. A settling creak of the building, a distant crash from somewhere in the store. My own breathing amplified in the silence. I took bottled water, cases of it, canned soup, canned vegetables, canned fruit, boxes of granola bars, beef jerky, anything I could carry. The cart was heavy, awkward. I pushed it back toward the loading dock, and that's when I heard movement in the aisles to my left. Footsteps, shuffling, that wet breathing sound. I abandoned the cart and ran, just dropped everything and sprinted for the gap in the door. I heard them behind me, multiple sets of feet, the moaning rising. I squeezed through the opening, felt hands grabbing at my jacket, tore free, and threw myself at the Bearcat door. It was unlocked. I'd left it unlocked. Stupid but lucky. I yanked it open, fell inside, slammed it shut, and locked it. 3 of them pressed against the vehicle. They'd followed me out. One was wearing a Costco employee vest. I sat on the floor of the Bearcat, gasping, empty-handed, having risked everything for nothing. I didn't try again for 6 days. The second run, I was smarter. I brought a backpack instead of trying to use a cart. I moved faster, stayed quieter, and grabbed only essentials. I got out with maybe 20 pounds of supplies. It felt like victory. It kept me alive for another week. The third run was yesterday. I'm running low again, water especially. I've been rationing, allowing myself 2 bottles a day, but even that won't last much longer. I need to go back in there. I need to keep going back in there until either the supplies run out or I make a fatal mistake. Living in the Bearcat has rhythms now. I wake up when light starts filtering through the covered windows, usually around 7 or 8. I lie still for a while, listening. The infected are more active in the daytime. I can hear them outside, shuffling past, moaning to each other in that horrible chorus. Sometimes they bump against the vehicle. Sometimes they ignore it completely, drawn by sounds or movements elsewhere. I eat breakfast, if you can call it that. A granola bar, half a bottle of water. I'm trying to stretch everything. I've lost weight. My jeans hang loose. My face, when I check it in the rearview mirror, looks gaunt. Stubble has become a beard because I don't have a razor, and even if I did, I'm not wasting water on shaving. I spend the morning hours checking my supplies, counting and recounting. 12 bottles of water left, 8 cans of soup, a box of crackers, some beef jerky, a package of cookies I'm saving for when I really need the morale boost. It's not enough. It's never enough. I do exercises to keep from going completely stiff. Push-ups, sit-ups, stretches in the confined space. My body aches constantly. Sleeping on the bench seats is destroying my back. I've tried padding them with the tactical vests I found, but it doesn't help much. Afternoons I spend watching through the windows. I've learned to identify individuals infected by their clothing or injuries. There's one I call coveralls. Used to be a mechanic, I think, based on the blue uniform. He's missing his left arm at the elbow. He circles the parking lot constantly, never stopping, never resting. There's another one. A woman in a business suit with long dark hair, half her jaw torn away. She stays near the entrance to the store. I call her greeter because it feels like she's waiting for customers who'll never come. I've wondered if naming them is a sign I'm losing it. Probably. But it gives me something to do, some way to track the patterns. I've noticed they congregate more when it's overcast. They seem slower in the rain. Temperature affects them. The cold ones in heavy coats move more sluggishly than the ones in lighter clothes. Though that might just be the clothing weighing them down. I've seen things I can't explain. On day 23, I watched 2 infected stand face to face in the parking lot for 4 hours, just staring at each other, swaying slightly. They didn't attack each other. They didn't move apart. They just stood there until something, a car alarm in the distance, drew them both away and in the same direction. On day 35, I saw one trying to open a car door. Actually trying, repeatedly pulling the handle, not just grabbing at it randomly. It didn't succeed, but the intent was there. That scares me more than the mindless ones. The idea that some part of them might be learning, adapting. Evenings are the hardest. The sun goes down, and the darkness in the Bearcat is total. I can't risk lights. Even a small flashlight beam might show through a gap in the coverings. So I sit in the pitch black, listening to them outside, and try not to think about the fact that this is my life now. This is what I've been reduced to. An animal hiding in a burrow, waiting for predators to lose interest. I think about Bryony constantly. She was 2 years younger than me, an elementary school teacher with a laugh that could fill a room. She lived in an apartment complex on the east side of the city. I don't know if she's alive. I don't know if she's one of them now. I don't know if she's hiding somewhere like me, scared and alone. I think about my parents, retired in Arizona. I hope Arizona's better. I hope the desert heat is slowing the infected down or killing them off. I hope my parents got somewhere safe. I hope they don't know what happened to me and Bryony. I think about my ex-girlfriend, Kestrel, who broke up with me 8 months before the world ended. We dated for 3 years. She said I was too complacent, too satisfied with mediocrity. She wanted someone ambitious. I wonder if ambition matters now. I wonder if she's alive. I wonder if she thinks about me. I think about stupid things too. Movies I'll never see. Albums I'll never hear. The coffee shop on Maple Street where I got a latte every morning on my way to work. The barista's name was Yael, and she always drew a little smiley face in the foam. I wonder what happened to Yael. At night, I sometimes cry, quietly, into my jacket, muffling the sound. Other nights, I'm too numb for tears, just empty. just existing. Just counting the hours until dawn when I can distract myself with routines again. I've thought about ending it. I found a pistol in the front console on day 12, a Glock, heavy and cold. I held it for an hour, felt the weight of it, thought about how easy it would be. Quick, certain, no risk of reanimation if I did it right. But I couldn't. Some stubborn part of me insists on surviving. Maybe it's hope, maybe it's just cowardice, too afraid to die, too afraid to live. The radio in the Bearcat still works. I've scanned through every frequency hundreds of times. Mostly static. Sometimes I catch fragments, a voice saying numbers, a loop of an emergency broadcast in Spanish. What sounds like music but distorted beyond recognition. Nothing that suggests organized survivors. Nothing that suggests rescue. On day 40, I picked up something different. A voice, male, speaking clearly. Sanctuary in the north. Fort Bellamy. Coordinates. And then static swallowed it. I waited for hours, scanning back and forth, trying to find the broadcast again. Nothing. It might have been old, a recording playing on automatic. It might have been my imagination. But it's stuck in my head now. Fort Bellamy. I don't know where that is. I don't have a map. I don't have coordinates. But it's something. A direction, a possibility. The problem is fuel. The gauge shows just over a quarter tank. I don't know how far that'll take me. The Bearcat is heavy, armored, not designed for efficiency. And every mile I drive makes noise, draws attention, risks breakdown in hostile territory. If I leave the Costco, I'm abandoning a known food source. If I stay, I'm trapped in a slowly depleting prison. I've been weighing this decision for a week now. North, Fort Bellamy. A voice on the radio that might mean nothing. Day 47 is when things changed. I was doing my usual morning routine, listening, eating, counting supplies, when I heard an engine. Not the moaning of the infected, not the wind or settling debris. An actual vehicle engine, distant but distinct. I pressed against the window, peering through the narrow gap in the covering. The parking lot was full of infected as usual, maybe 40 or 50 of them scattered across the asphalt. And then I saw it. A pickup truck, blue, moving fast down the street that runs parallel to the Costco. It was weaving around abandoned cars, engine roaring. The infected reacted immediately. Every single one of them turned toward the sound and started moving in that direction, that horrible unified pivot like a school of fish. They left the parking lot, shambling and running and crawling toward the truck's noise. And then the truck stopped. Just stopped in the middle of the street, about 200 yards away. I could see someone in the driver's seat. The door opened. A figure got out. Too far to see details, but human, moving with purpose. They ran toward a building, one of those strip mall stores. The infected converged. I watched, frozen. Was this person insane? A diversion? Suicide? Minutes passed. The infected clustered around the building the person had entered. The truck sat abandoned in the street, engine still running. And then, gunshots. Rapid fire coming from inside the building. The infected near the entrance started dropping. More gunshots. Someone was fighting. The parking lot was empty now. Completely empty. Every infected thing had moved toward the noise. This was it. This was my chance. A window of opportunity I might never get again. I grabbed my backpack, checked the zipper on my jacket, pulled on my gloves and helmet. I opened the Bearcat door and stepped out into the open air for the first time in 3 days. The silence was eerie. No moaning, no shuffling, just distant gunshots and the idling truck engine. I ran for the loading dock door, squeezed through, and entered the warehouse. I moved fast, almost reckless. The aisles were clear. I loaded my backpack with water bottles, canned goods, a box of batteries I found, medical supplies from the pharmacy section. I took more than I should, more than was safe to carry. The backpack was so heavy it hurt my shoulders. I didn't care. I grabbed a second bag, a reusable shopping tote, and filled it too. The gunshots had stopped. That registered in my mind, but didn't slow me down. I needed to get back to the Bearcat. I needed to move now. I made it to the loading dock area, bags in both hands, when I heard voices. Actual human voices. Clear in here? Doesn't look like it. Place is huge. Check the back. They were inside the Costco. Other survivors. Real people. I should have called out. I should have revealed myself. But I froze. Fear locked me in place. Were they friendly? Hostile? Would they take my supplies? Take the Bearcat? Kill me for what I had? I ducked behind a stack of pallets, set down my bags as quietly as possible, and waited. Flashlight beams swept through the warehouse. 2 people moving carefully, checking aisles. I could see them now. One was tall, wearing a hunting jacket and carrying a shotgun. The other was shorter, slimmer, with a rifle slung over their shoulder. Both had backpacks. They were doing exactly what I'd been doing, scavenging, surviving. "Grab what you can," the tall one said. "We've got maybe 10 minutes before they start drifting back." "Think there's anyone else alive in this city?" the shorter one asked. "If there is, they're smart enough to stay hidden." They loaded supplies quickly, efficiently. They'd done this before. They worked as a team, communicating with hand signals and brief words. I watched them, my heart pounding, crouched behind the pallets like a rat. Why didn't I reveal myself? I don't know. Fear? Paranoia? The instinct that's kept me alive for 47 days by trusting absolutely no one. They finished loading and headed back toward the front of the store. I waited 5 minutes after their footsteps faded, then grabbed my bags and ran for the loading dock. I squeezed through the gap, bags scraping the metal, and sprinted for the Bearcat. The truck was gone from the street. The infected were starting to return, drawn back to their wandering patterns. I threw the bags inside the Bearcat, climbed in after them, and slammed the door. I sat there, shaking, processing what had just happened. Other survivors, real people, a coordinated group with weapons and a plan. And I'd hidden from them like a coward. The supplies I'd gathered were substantial, enough to last maybe 2 more weeks if I was careful. But the encounter had shaken something loose in my mind. I wasn't the only one alive. There were others. Maybe not many, maybe just that pair, but others nonetheless. The question was, did I want to find them? Day 48. I'm writing this now with a pen I found in the bags I took yesterday, using the back of a Costco receipt as paper. I've never kept a written record before, but it feels important suddenly. Like I need to document this. Like someone might read it someday if I don't make it. I've been thinking about the 2 survivors I saw, about Fort Bellamy, about the fact that I can't live in this Bearcat forever. The supplies will run out. The fuel will run out. Winter is coming. I can feel it in the cooling air. The Bearcat has heat, but only when the engine is running, and I can't afford to idle it for warmth. I've been thinking about what I'm willing to risk for the chance at something more than this. The answer came to me this morning. I'm going north. I'm looking for Fort Bellamy. I'm going to try to find those survivors or other survivors or anyone who might know if there's a safe place left in this world. But first, I need more fuel. There's a gas station 3 blocks from here. I've avoided it because it's in a bad area. Lots of infected, narrow streets, easy to get trapped. But the Bearcat needs diesel, and that station has commercial pumps. I spent the day planning. The station has a canopy over the pumps, which means some cover. The Bearcat can ram through the gate if it's locked. I'll need to work fast. Pumping fuel is loud, and the infected will come. I'll go tonight. After midnight. I'll take one of the rifles even though I'm a terrible shot. I'll bring containers for extra fuel. I found some 5-gallon jugs in the warehouse yesterday. This is the most dangerous thing I've attempted. If it goes wrong, I'm dead. But if I don't try, I'm dead eventually anyway. Might as well go down swinging. The sun is setting now. I can see the sky turning orange through the window gap. Coveralls is doing his usual circuit of the parking lot. Greeter is standing near the store entrance, swaying slightly. In 6 hours, I'm going to start the Bearcat and drive to that gas station. I'm going to fill the tank and the jugs. I'm going to survive this. I have to believe that. I have to. Otherwise, what's the point of the last 48 days? Midnight came faster than I wanted. I sat in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, key in the ignition, and tried to steady my breathing. The night outside was dark. No street lights, no house lights, just the pale glow of a half-moon behind scattered clouds. I turned the key. The engine roared to life, impossibly loud after weeks of silence. Every infected thing within earshot turned toward the sound. I could see them through the windshield, dozens of them, starting to converge. I put the Bearcat in gear and drove. The weight and power of the vehicle never stopped surprising me. It plows through a shopping cart like it's paper. An abandoned sedan in my path gets shoved aside with barely a shudder. The infected bounce off the armor, slam against the windows, grabbing at anything they can reach. I accelerate and they fall away. The gas station is 3 blocks north. I navigate by memory in the faint moonlight. The streets are obstacle courses, wrecked cars, debris, bodies. The Bearcat climbs over curbs, crushes fence sections, forces through a barricade someone built weeks ago that didn't save them. I reach the station. The canopy is intact. The pumps are dark. I don't see infected immediately, but they're coming. I can hear the moaning rising from multiple directions. I position the Bearcat next to the diesel pump and kill the engine. The silence crashes down. I grab the rifle, check the magazine the way I've practiced, and step out. The air is cold. My breath mists. I move to the pump and try the handle. Locked. Of course it's locked. I look around for something to break it with. Spot a tire iron leaning against the building and smash the pump panel. The plastic cracks. I rip it open, find the manual override, and yank it. The pump clicks. Active. I grab the nozzle, jam it into the Bearcat's fuel tank, and squeeze the trigger. Nothing happens. No power. The pumps need electricity. I should have thought of that. I should have planned for that. The moaning is getting closer. I can see shapes emerging from the darkness. Multiple infected, converging on the station. Think. There's a generator somewhere. Gas stations have backup generators. I sprint around the side of the building, rifle in hand, and find it. A large industrial generator in a locked cage. I shoot the lock. The sound is deafening. The lock shatters. I wrench open the cage door and stare at the generator controls. I know nothing about generators. I find a switch labeled main power and flip it. Nothing happens. There's a pull cord. I yank it. The generator coughs. I pull again. It catches, sputters, and roars to life. Lights flicker on inside the station. The pump island lights up, and every infected thing in the area knows exactly where I am. I run back to the pump. The infected are close now, 20 feet, 15 feet. I grab the nozzle, jam it in the tank, squeeze the trigger. Diesel flows. The numbers on the pump tick upward with agonizing slowness. 10 gallons, 12, 15. The first infected reaches me. A man in a torn suit, one eye hanging from the socket. I shove him back with a rifle. He grabs it. We struggle. I pull free and swing the rifle like a bat, catching him in the head. He staggers but doesn't fall. 20 gallons, 25. More of them now. 5, 6, 7 closing in. I can't fight them all. The nozzle is still pumping. I need more. I need to fill the jugs. 30 gallons. The tank is full. I pull the nozzle out, diesel spilling on the ground, and grab the first 5-gallon jug. My hands shake. I jam the nozzle into the jug opening. Diesel splashes everywhere. They're on me. Hands grabbing my jacket, my backpack. I spin, kicking, swinging. One grabs my helmet. I feel it shift. I wrench away, leaving a chunk of my jacket in dead hands. The jug is full. I drop it, grab the second one. The nozzle is slippery with diesel. I can barely hold it. Fill, fill, fill. Something grabs my leg. I look down. A woman crawling, most of her abdomen torn open and dragging. She's pulling herself toward me, jaws snapping. I kick her face. She doesn't let go. I kick again. Her grip loosens. The second jug is full. That's all I can manage. I drop the nozzle, grab both jugs, heavy, awkward, and run for the Bearcat door. There are infected between me and the vehicle. I lower my shoulder and charge. I'm a battering ram of diesel-soaked terror. I hit one, knock it aside, slip on the fuel-slicked pavement, catch myself. The jugs slosh. I reach the door, wrench it open, throw the jugs inside. Hands grab me from behind, pulling me back. I hold the door frame, kicking backward. My boot connects with something soft. The grip loosens. I pull myself inside and slam the door. They're all over the Bearcat now. Dozens of them. Beating on the armor, clawing at the windows, the vehicle rocks slightly from their weight. I crawl to the driver's seat, key the ignition. The engine starts. I put it in gear and drive, crushing infected beneath the wheels, plowing through them like they're tall grass. I don't stop driving until I'm back at the Costco loading dock. The fuel gauge shows 3/4 full. The 2 jugs in the back represent 10 more gallons. It's not a full tank, but it's enough. Enough to get me north, enough to try. I sit in the dark, reeking of diesel, my whole body shaking with adrenaline crash. My jacket is torn. There are scratches on my gloves where fingers grabbed. But I made it. I got the fuel. Day 49. I left the Costco this morning. I'd loaded everything I could fit. Water, food, supplies, the fuel jugs. The Bearcat was cramped and heavy. I took one last look at the loading dock, at the warehouse where I'd scavenged 3 times successfully. Then I started driving north. The city is a graveyard. That's the only way to describe it. Buildings burned out. Streets clogged with vehicles and bodies. Some areas are completely overrun with infected. I saw 100 of them clustered around a makeshift barricade, just standing there, swaying. Other areas are empty, silent, like everyone simply vanished. I passed a hospital. The parking lot was full of abandoned ambulances. The windows were shattered. I could see movement inside, shadows, shapes. I didn't slow down. I passed a school. Someone had spray-painted "Safe Zone" on the front wall. And below it, someone else had written "Lies" in red. The playground equipment was covered in dark stains. I passed neighborhoods where every house looked intact from the outside, but I knew they weren't. I knew what was behind those closed doors. The Bearcat's heavy wheels crushed debris. I steered around the worst blockages when I could, rammed through when I couldn't. The infected noticed me whenever I passed. How could they not? But I was moving too fast for them to be a real threat. They'd chase for a block or two, then fall behind. I made it to the highway by noon. The northbound lanes were clearer than I expected. Most of the traffic had been heading south in those first days, people fleeing toward the coast or the ports. North was mountains, forests, smaller towns. North was where fewer people meant fewer infected. The highway was still navigable if you were willing to drive on the shoulder and around wrecks. I saw other survivors' attempts. Burned out military convoys, overturned buses that had tried to evacuate people, a RV that had been torn apart, its sides shredded like paper. I drove for 3 hours before I had to stop. The Bearcat needs diesel, but I need rest. My eyes were burning. My hands ached from gripping the wheel. I pulled off at an exit for a town called Ashmont, population 12,000 according to the sign. The town looked like every other dead place I'd seen. Broken windows, dried blood, silence. I found a spot behind a warehouse building, parked with the rear of the Bearcat against the wall so nothing could come at me from behind, and killed the engine. The silence after driving for hours was profound. My ears rang with it. I ate a can of soup cold, drank water, and tried to think about what I was doing. Fort Bellamy, the voice on the radio. I was driving toward a destination I wasn't sure existed, based on a transmission that might have been weeks old. But what else was I going to do? Stay at the Costco until the food ran out? Wait for rescue that wasn't coming? At least this way I was moving. I was trying. I slept fitfully in the back of the Bearcat. Every sound woke me. Wind, settling metal, distant moans. When dawn came, I was exhausted, but alive. Day 50. I'm in the mountains now. The highway climbs into foothills thick with pine trees. The air is colder up here. I can see my breath inside the Bearcat. The heater works but guzzles fuel, so I run it sparingly, just enough to keep from freezing. The infected are different here. Fewer of them, but the ones I see are in worse condition. The cold is hard on them. I passed one frozen to the pavement, limbs locked in mid-reach. I passed another that had apparently tried to climb a tree and gotten stuck in the branches, now just a tattered corpse swaying in the wind. I'm following highway signs toward anything that sounds north. Fort Bellamy isn't on any signs. I don't know if it's a military installation, a town, or just a place name someone made up. I keep the radio on, scanning frequencies, hoping to pick up that voice again. Mostly static, sometimes fragments of old broadcasts looping endlessly. Emergency instructions no one needs anymore. Late afternoon on day 50, I picked up something new. Music, actual music. A song I recognized from before, something pop, upbeat, absurdly out of place. It played for 3 minutes, then cut to static, then came back. Someone was broadcasting. Someone with power and equipment and enough safety to play music. I tried to triangulate the direction based on signal strength. North-northwest. Stronger as I continued up the highway. I'm following the music now. It's the best lead I have. Day 51. The highway is blocked. Not by traffic, by a deliberate barricade. Someone piled cars across all lanes, stacked them 2 and 3 high, and reinforced the wall with concrete barriers. There's a sign on top. Turn back, quarantine zone ahead. I sat in the Bearcat, staring at the barricade, trying to decide what it meant. Quarantine zone could mean infected. Could mean survivors trying to contain an outbreak. Could mean anything. The radio was still playing music. The signal was stronger here. I couldn't turn back. I'd come too far on too little fuel. I had to go forward. The Bearcat is powerful, but it can't climb a 3-car high wall. I drove along the barricade, looking for a weak point. Found one on the western end, a gap where the concrete barriers didn't quite meet. I backed up, accelerated, and rammed through. The impact jarred me hard against the seatbelt. The Bearcat's front end crumpled slightly, not enough to disable it, but I could see the damage in the rear view. The engine still ran. That's what mattered. Beyond the barricade, the highway continued into a valley. I could see a town ahead, smoke rising from chimneys, actual smoke from actual fires. People. I drove slowly, cautiously. This could be Fort Bellamy. This could be survivors. This could also be a trap. The town came into view. It was small, maybe 50 buildings, clustered around a main street. There was a wall around it. Not cars this time, but actual construction, wood and chain link and sheet metal, maybe 12 feet high, surrounding the entire town perimeter. And on top of the wall, I saw people. Actual living people, walking guard duty with rifles. I stopped the Bearcat about 100 yards from the main gate. I didn't know what to do. Drive up, honk, get out, and wave. Before I could decide, figures appeared on the wall. 5 of them, all armed, all pointing weapons at me. A voice came over a loudspeaker. "Exit the vehicle with your hands up. Do it now, or we fire." My heart hammered. I'd survived 47 days alone, and now I might get shot by other survivors. I opened the door slowly, stepped out, hands raised. The cold air bit at my exposed skin. Walk forward, slowly. I walked. 20 steps, 30. The guards kept their weapons trained on me. I could see them clearly now, men and women, ranging from young to old, all looking hardened and wary. "Stop! Are you infected?" "No!" I shouted back. My voice cracked from disuse. "Have you been bitten? Scratched?" "No." "Strip. We need to see." I hesitated. "Strip out here in the cold, exposed, vulnerable. Do it, or we shoot you and burn the body." I stripped. Jacket, shirt, pants, boots. I stood in my underwear, shivering, while they examined me from the wall. I turned slowly, showing all sides. No bites, no scratches. Just bruises and scrapes and 47 days of grime. "Get dressed. You're going to quarantine for 72 hours. If you show symptoms, we burn you. Understand?" "I understand." "Does your vehicle have supplies?" "Yes. We'll inventory them. If you cooperate, you can keep a share. If you fight, we take everything and you stay outside. Clear?" "Clear." They opened the gate. Just a crack. 2 guards came out, weapons ready, and escorted me inside, while others drove the Bearcat in after me. The town was called Millhaven, I learned. Population now about 200. Everyone who'd made it here alive and managed to pass quarantine. It wasn't Fort Bellamy. Fort Bellamy was still another 50 miles north, according to the guard who processed me. A woman named Devora, with a scar across her left cheek and eyes that had seen too much. "Fort Bellamy's a military installation," she said while writing down my information. Or it was. We've had people try to get there. None came back. Radio broadcasts from that direction stopped 3 weeks ago. "I heard something," I said. "A voice. Sanctuary in the north." "Yeah, we broadcast that for a while. Trying to bring in survivors. Stopped when we realized we couldn't support more people." "You're lucky we let you in at all." "They put me in a quarantine house. a small cottage on the edge of town, windows barred, door locked from outside. They left me food, water, a bucket for waste. The guard who delivered it wore gloves and a mask. 3 days, he said. You turn, we put you down. You stay clean, you join the community. The door locked behind him. I was alone again. But this time, the alone felt different. There were people outside, living people, a community, structure, rules. I sat on the cot in the quarantine house and cried for the first time in weeks. Not from fear, from relief, from the overwhelming realization that I might actually survive this. Day 52, quarantine day 1. The house is small but clean. There's a bed, a table, a chair, a shelf with some books, old paperbacks, genres ranging from romance to mystery. I read for the first time since the outbreak. It felt strange, surreal, to read about normal problems, normal lives. 3 times a day, someone brings food. It's simple. Canned vegetables, crackers, sometimes soup. But it's more than I've eaten regularly in weeks. They slide it through a slot in the door. I slide back the empty containers. No contact, no conversation. I can hear the town through the barred window. People talking, children, actual children, playing, a dog barking. The sounds of normal life, or as normal as life gets now. I sleep better than I have in 51 days. The bed is soft. The house is warm. There are no infected moaning outside. Day 53, quarantine day 2. Devora came by in the afternoon. She stood outside the window, 6 feet back, and we talked through the bars. You're looking healthier, she said. I feel human again. Tell me your story. How'd you survive this long? I told her. The Bearcat? The Costco? The 47 days alone? She listened without interrupting. You're lucky, she said when I finished. And resourceful. We need resourceful people. What happens after quarantine? If you're clean, you work. Everyone works. We've got farms, scavenging teams, defense rotations. You pull your weight, you eat and sleep safe. You don't, you leave. What about Fort Bellamy? Is anyone still trying to reach it? She frowned. Why? What's there for you? Information. Maybe survivors. Maybe something better than this. Better than this? Her voice hardened. We've got walls, food, community. 200 people alive because we work together. That's not good enough. I didn't mean... Fort Bellamy is death. Everyone who's gone there has died. We know because the infected that come from that direction are wearing military gear. Whatever happened there, it fell. Let it go. She walked away. I defended her, but she wasn't wrong. Millhaven was survival. It was safety. Maybe I should be grateful and stop chasing ghosts. Day 54, quarantine day 3, last day. I woke up feeling fine. No fever, no symptoms. I examined myself in the small mirror on the wall. I looked different. Thinner, older, harder. Devora came at noon with 2 other guards. They unlocked the door and stood back, weapons ready. Strip again, final check. I stripped. They examined every inch of me. Checked my eyes, my mouth, my lymph nodes. Devora pulled on gloves and physically inspected my skin for any marks. You're clear, she said finally. Welcome to Millhaven. They gave me new clothes, clean jeans, a flannel shirt, a heavy coat. They gave me a room in a communal house with 3 other people. They gave me a work assignment, scavenging team, starting tomorrow. That night, I ate dinner in the town hall with the community. Long tables, shared food, people talking and laughing. It felt like a dream. A man named Jericho sat across from me. Older, maybe 60, with white hair and a kind face. "First time at community dinner?" he asked. "Yeah." "It's a lot to take in. Where'd you come from?" "South. City." "Alone?" "For almost 2 months." He whistled low. "That's remarkable. Most people who are alone that long don't make it. Something about the isolation breaks them. It almost broke me. But it didn't. That's what matters." After dinner, there was music. Someone had a guitar. Someone else sang. The songs were old. Folk songs, classics, things from before. People joined in. I didn't know the words, but I listened. And for the first time in nearly 2 months, I felt something like peace. Day 55. First day of work. The scavenging team left at dawn. 6 of us in 2 vehicles, a pickup truck and a van. I rode in the van with a woman named Saren and a young guy named Huxley, who couldn't have been older than 20. Saren drove. She was all business, sharp and efficient. "We hit small towns," she explained as we drove. "Places that were evacuated or died quick. We avoid cities. Too dangerous. Too many infected." "What are we looking for?" "Everything. Food, medicine, fuel, tools, clothes, batteries, anything useful. We inventory it all, bring it back, distribute based on need." We drove for an hour into the mountains, then pulled off onto a side road. The town we reached was tiny, maybe 20 houses, a general store, a gas station, all abandoned. "Huxley, you're with me," Saren said. "Dalton, you're with Tarvin and Mika. We work in pairs minimum, never separate. You see infected, you call it out. We don't engage unless necessary." Tarvin was a big guy, broad-shouldered, with a thick beard. Mika was small and quick, constantly scanning the area. We moved through the town methodically, checking houses one by one. The first house was empty, not just of people, of everything. Someone had stripped it already. The second house had a body in the kitchen. Old Death, mostly decomposed. Not infected. Suicide, based on the pill bottles and the note on the table. I didn't read the note. I didn't want to know. We found supplies in the third house. Canned goods in the pantry, batteries in a drawer, a first aid kit under the sink. We loaded everything into bags and moved on. By noon, we'd cleared 5 houses. My bag was heavy. My legs ached. But I was useful. I was contributing. We stopped for lunch, crackers and jerky, eaten standing by the vehicles while Saren kept watch. That's when we heard it. A scream, human, coming from the north side of town. Everyone froze. "Could be a trap," Tarvin said. "Could be someone who needs help," Micah countered. The scream came again, desperate, terrified. Saren made the call. "Tarvin, Mika, with me. Huxley, stay with the vehicles. Dalton, your rear guard." We moved toward the sound, through backyards, between houses. The screaming was getting louder, more frantic. We found them in a garage behind a blue house. 2 people, a man and a woman. Cornered by 4 infected, the couple had improvised weapons, a crowbar, a kitchen knife. They were trying to fight, but they were losing. Saren didn't hesitate. She raised her rifle and fired. The first infected dropped. Tarvin took the second. Micah got the third. The fourth turned toward us, and I realized I was supposed to shoot it. I raised my rifle. My hands shook. The infected was running at me now, a middle-aged man in a bathrobe, jaw hanging loose, eyes vacant. I pulled the trigger, missed, fired again, hit it in the shoulder. It didn't stop. Tarvin's shot took it down before it reached me. The couple was hysterical, crying, thanking us, talking over each other. They'd been hiding in the garage for days. They were out of food. They thought they were going to die. Saren calmed them down, checked them for bites. They were clean. "We can take you back to Millhaven," she said, "but you'll need to quarantine first." They agreed instantly. They would have agreed to anything. On the drive back, I sat in the van, staring at my hands. I'd frozen. I'd almost got myself killed if Tarvin hadn't been there. "First firefight?" Micah asked quietly. "Yeah. You'll get better. Everyone freezes the first time." I wanted to believe that. Day 60, in 1 week in Millhaven, I've fallen into routines. Wake at dawn, breakfast in the communal hall, scavenging runs 3 days a week, defense rotation on the walls 2 days a week. 1 day off, usually spent helping with maintenance or farming. The farming is in greenhouses, retrofitted buildings where they grow vegetables and herbs. It's not enough to feed everyone, but it supplements the scavenged supplies. They're talking about expanding, planting fields in the spring if we survive that long. I've gotten to know people. Jericho used to be a veterinarian. He takes care of the few animals the town has: chickens, 2 goats, a dog. Saren was a paramedic before. Huxley was a college student. Devora doesn't talk about what she was before, and no one asks. The couple we rescued, their names are Nolan and Peregrine, completed quarantine and joined the community. They're quiet, traumatized, but alive. Peregrine thanked me again yesterday, even though I barely did anything during the rescue. I nodded and walked away. I don't know how to accept gratitude. I still think about Fort Bellamy sometimes, about the voice on the radio, about what might be there. But Millhaven is real. It's working. It's survival. Maybe that's enough. Day 70. Something changed today. The scavenging team didn't return. They were supposed to be back by sunset. By midnight, there was still no sign of them. Devora assembled a search party at dawn. I volunteered. 6 of us went out, following the route the missing team should have taken. We found their vehicle first, the pickup truck, abandoned on the side of the road. No blood, no bodies, no signs of struggle, just empty. Then we found the tracks, boot prints leading into the woods, multiple sets. They'd left the vehicle voluntarily. We followed the tracks, through dense forest, up a steep hillside. The trees were thick here, blocking out most of the light. Everything smelled like pine and damp earth. We found the camp an hour into the hike. Tents, supplies, a fire pit still warm, and people, not infected, but humans. Living survivors, maybe 20 of them. They surrounded us before we knew they were there, armed, silent, professional. The leader was a woman in military fatigues. She had a rifle pointed at Devora's chest. "Millhaven?" she asked. "Yes," Devora said calmly. "We're looking for our people." "They're safe. We have questions for them first." "What kind of questions?" "About your town, your numbers, your defenses." "Why?" The woman smiled. It wasn't friendly. "Because we're coming to visit." They held us there for 3 hours. The missing scavenging team was brought out. They were unharmed, but scared. The military woman, she said her name was Colonel Brandt, questioned Devora extensively. How many people in Millhaven? What weapons did we have? How much food? What were our walls made of? Devora answered carefully, not lying, but not giving everything away. Finally, Brandt let us go. "We'll be at your gates in 3 days. You'll let us in peacefully, or we'll take what we need by force. Your choice." We drove back to Millhaven in silence. When we arrived, Devora called an emergency meeting. Everyone gathered in the town hall. "We have a problem," she said, and she explained. The debate that followed was fierce. Some people wanted to fight. Some wanted to negotiate. Some wanted to abandon Millhaven and run. I sat in the back, listening, thinking. I'd come here looking for safety. I'd found it. And now it was about to be taken away. Fort Bellamy crept back into my mind. Devora had said it fell. But what if she was wrong? What if there was still something there? Information, weapons, a way to defend against people like Colonel Brandt. It was stupid. It was suicidal. But I couldn't shake the thought. Day 71. 2 days until Colonel Brandt arrives. Millhaven is preparing. Some people are reinforcing the walls. Others are organizing weapons and ammunition. A few families are packing to leave, deciding not to wait and see what happens. I went to Devora. Let me go to Fort Bellamy. She stared at me. You're insane. You said people went there and didn't come back. But you don't know what happened. Maybe there's something useful. Maybe there are weapons or supplies we can use. Maybe there's just death. I'm going anyway. I just wanted you to know. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed. Take the Bearcat. It's yours anyway. And if you find anything that can help us, bring it back. If you don't find anything, at least you tried. What if I don't come back? Then you died doing something stupid, like most people these days. I left before dawn on day 72. The Bearcat was loaded with fuel and supplies. A few people came to see me off. Jericho, Saren, Huxley. They didn't try to talk me out of it. They just wished me luck. The drive to Fort Bellamy took 4 hours. The highway deteriorated the further north I went. Fewer maintained roads. More wilderness. I passed through areas that looked completely untouched by the outbreak. No bodies, no wrecks, just empty forest. Fort Bellamy appeared suddenly around a curve. It was huge. A military installation built into the mountainside, with high walls and guard towers and a main gate that stood open. Open. That was the first bad sign. The second bad sign was the bodies. Military personnel, dozens of them, scattered around the entrance. Some in uniform, some in tactical gear. All dead for weeks based on the decomposition. I drove the Bearcat through the open gate slowly. The base was silent. Buildings stood intact but empty. Vehicles parked in neat rows, abandoned. No infected that I could see. No survivors either. I parked in front of the main administrative building and got out. The air smelled wrong, decay and chemicals and something else I couldn't identify. The building's front door was unlocked. I entered, rifle ready, and found myself in a lobby with a reception desk and hallways branching left and right. There was a map on the wall showing the base layout. I studied it. Armory, medical, command center, barracks, communications. I went to communications first. The room was filled with equipment. Radios, computers, screens. Everything was still powered. Generators running in the basement, I guessed. I found logs on a desk. The last entry was dated 6 weeks ago. Day 14 of outbreak. Base sealed per protocol. No contact with outside command. Infection breach in Sector C. Quarantine measures failing. Colonel Rourke authorized extreme containment. God help us. There were more logs. I read them quickly. The base had sealed itself when the outbreak began. They thought they could wait it out. But someone inside was infected, probably didn't know it. Past screening, the infection spread through Sector C, then Sector B. They tried to contain it, tried to quarantine sections. It didn't work. Colonel Rourke made a decision. He flooded the infected sections with gas, some kind of chemical weapon from the base stockpile. It killed the infected. It also killed anyone who wasn't infected, but was trapped in those sections. The survivors, maybe 50 people, gathered in the command center. They waited. The infected outside the base didn't breach the walls, but the people inside were trapped with limited food, contaminated sections, and the knowledge that they'd killed their own people. The last log entry was short. We're leaving, heading west, abandoning base. No rescue coming, no point staying. Rourke shot himself. Taking what we can carry. If anyone finds this, don't come here. Nothing left but ghosts. I sat in the communications room, processing. Fort Bellamy wasn't sanctuary. It was a tomb. But the armory might still have weapons, supplies, something to help Millhaven. I found the armory on the west side of the base. The door was locked, but the Bearcat had a breaching tool. I forced it open. Inside was everything a survivor could dream of. Rifles, ammunition, body armor, grenades, medical supplies, MREs by the hundreds. I loaded the Bearcat. Trips back and forth, cramming as much as I could fit. Weapons for Millhaven's defenders, armor to protect them, food to sustain them. It took hours. The sun was setting by the time I finished. I was exhausted, covered in dust and sweat, but the Bearcat was full. I was about to leave when I heard it. A sound from deeper in the base, not infected moaning. Machinery, a rhythmic thumping. Curiosity pulled me toward it. I followed the sound to a building marked Research Lab, authorized personnel only. The door was ajar. I pushed it open and entered. The lab was chaos. Papers everywhere, equipment smashed, and in the center of the room, a containment cell with reinforced glass. Inside the cell was an infected, but different. It was chained to the wall, muzzled, and it was watching me, not with the vacant stare of the others. This one had intelligence in its eyes, awareness. There was a monitor next to the cell. I turned it on. Video logs. I played the most recent one. A scientist appeared on screen, gaunt, exhausted, speaking rapidly. Subject 12 shows unprecedented cognitive retention. Unlike previous subjects, 12 maintains problem-solving abilities, memory, and what appears to be self-awareness post-infection. This suggests the virus affects different individuals differently. 12 may represent an evolution of the pathogen. Further study required, but base evacuation is imminent. Recommend termination of subject before abandonment. The video ended. I looked at the infected in the cell. Subject 12. It tilted its head, studying me the way I was studying it. Then it spoke. The voice was rough, damaged, but unmistakable. Help me! I ran. I didn't think, didn't process, just ran back to the Bearcat and drove. I drove until Fort Bellamy was miles behind me, and the sun had fully set and I couldn't drive anymore. I pulled over on the side of the road and sat in the dark, shaking. An infected that could talk, that could think, that was aware of what it had become. I'd thought I understood the nightmare. I was wrong. Day 73. I returned to Millhaven at noon. The town was in lockdown. The gates were barred. Guards on the walls spotted me and radioed down. Devora met me at the gate. Did you find anything? Yes. Load of weapons and supplies in the Bearcat. Enough to make a difference. Her expression shifted from skepticism to hope. Show me. I opened the back of the Bearcat. Her eyes widened at the cache of military equipment. This might actually work, she said quietly. This might let us defend ourselves. We unloaded everything, distributed weapons to trained fighters, set up defensive positions, prepared for Colonel Brandt's arrival. She came the next morning. 20 vehicles, maybe 60 people, all armed, all organized, military or ex-military based on how they moved. Brandt walked to the gate alone, hands visible, no weapon drawn. She looked up at the wall where Devora stood. I'm here to negotiate. Brant called. "We're listening," Devora replied. "My people need shelter, food, medical supplies. We've been mobile too long. Winter's coming. We want to join your community." "Join or take over?" "Join. I'm not interested in ruling. I'm interested in surviving. We have skills, combat training, organization. We can help you defend this place. And if we say no, then we take what we need and move on. But people die that way, both sides. Better to work together." The negotiation lasted 3 hours. Terms were agreed upon. Brant's people would integrate into Millhaven gradually. They'd follow existing rules. They'd contribute before they took. If anyone stepped out of line, Devora had final say on punishment. It was a risk. But it was also opportunity. 60 more people meant more workers, more defenders, more chance of survival. That night, Millhaven's population doubled. The town strained to accommodate everyone. Sleeping arrangements were cramped. Food was rationed tighter. But we managed. I watched from the communal hall as people from both groups mingled cautiously. Some friendly, some suspicious, all trying to figure out if this would work. Jericho sat down next to me. "A lot of new faces." "Yeah. You brought back those weapons just in time. Without them, I don't think Devora would have had the confidence to negotiate." "Just lucky." "No. You took a risk. You went to a place everyone said was death. You brought back something useful. That's not luck. That's courage." I didn't feel courageous. I felt haunted. Subject 12's voice kept echoing in my head. "Help me. Day 80, 1 week since Brant's people arrived. The integration is rough but happening. Brant is true to her word. She's deferring to Devora on major decisions, keeping her people in line, contributing to defenses and scavenging. I've been paired with one of Brant's people on scavenging runs. His name is Cato, and he barely talks. Just does the job efficiently and watches everything with the alertness of someone who's seen too much combat. On our third run together, we hit a small town to the east. We were searching a pharmacy when Cato finally spoke. "You were at Fort Bellamy." Statement, not question. "Yes." "Find anything useful besides the weapons?" I hesitated. Should I tell him about Subject 12, about an infected that could think and speak? "Just the armory," I said. He nodded slowly, probably for the best. Some things are better left buried. "You know something about that place?" "I was stationed there. Before. Got transferred out 2 months before the outbreak. Heard it fell." "It did. They killed their own people trying to contain the infection." "Sounds about right. Command always valued containment over lives." We finished the run in silence. But on the drive back, Cato spoke again. "There were rumors, research projects, classified. We weren't supposed to know, but soldiers talk. They were studying the infected, trying to understand the virus, weaponize it, maybe, or cure it." "Did they find anything?" "Don't know. I left before any results. But if they did find something, it died with the base." I thought about Subject 12, an evolution of the virus. Different, dangerous in new ways. Maybe some things should stay buried. Day 90, 3 months since the world ended. Millhaven is stable. The combined population has settled into new routines. Defenses are stronger. Scavenging runs are more efficient with Brant's military organization. We've even started planning long-term, expanding farms, winterizing buildings, establishing trade routes with other survivor groups Brant knows about. Other groups. That was news. Millhaven isn't alone. There are pockets of survivors scattered across the region, small communities like ours, trying to rebuild. Brant organized a meeting. Representatives from 4 different groups came to Millhaven. They talked about sharing resources, coordinating defenses, establishing communication networks. It felt almost like civilization. I sat in on the meeting, watching. These people were building something, not just surviving, but actually building a future. And I realized I didn't feel like I belonged. I'd been alone too long. I'd seen too much. The Bearcat, Fort Bellamy, Subject 12. These things haunted me. I couldn't settle, couldn't relax, couldn't pretend this was normal. That night, I went to Devora. I'm leaving. She didn't seem surprised. Where? Don't know. South, maybe. Looking for more survivors, more groups. You're running. Maybe. From what? From the quiet. From pretending everything's okay when it's not. From the fact that we're living in a world where the infected can think and talk and we don't even know it. I hadn't meant to say that last part. It slipped out. Devora's expression sharpened. What are you talking about? I told her. Subject 12, the research, the video logs, the infected that spoke. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Does anyone else know? Cato suspects something. But no, I haven't told anyone. Keep it that way. People are scared enough. They don't need to know the infected might be evolving. But if they are, then we deal with it when we have to, not before. Right now, we focus on survival, on building, on giving people hope. That's more important than fear. She was right. But I couldn't shake the fear. It had taken root too deep. Day 91. I left Millhaven this morning. The Bearcat was resupplied. Fuel, food, ammunition. Devora gave me maps of the region with survivor communities marked. Brant gave me radio frequencies for check-ins. Jericho gave me a hug and told me to stay alive. I drove south, retracing the path I'd taken 2 months ago. The roads were familiar now. The landmarks, wrecked vehicles, burned buildings, graffiti warnings, all recognizable. I wasn't running away. At least, that's what I told myself. I was looking for answers, for more communities, for understanding of what this world had become. The truth was more complicated. I was looking for purpose, for a reason to keep going beyond just survival. I drove for days, stopping in small towns, searching for survivors. I found a few. A family hiding in a farmhouse. A group of teenagers who'd banded together in a school. An old man living alone in a cabin, somehow still alive through sheer stubbornness. I told them about Millhaven, about the communities, about the possibility of something more than isolation. Some listened, some didn't. Some were too broken to care. Day 100. I'm writing this from a rest stop somewhere in the mountains. I've been on the road for 9 days. The Bearcat is holding up, but I'm running low on fuel again. I need to find a source or turn back. The radio crackles occasionally with static and fragments. I've picked up a few broadcasts. Survivors calling for help, automated warnings, one voice that just repeats coordinates over and over. I tried the coordinates. They led to an abandoned military checkpoint. Nothing useful there. Tonight, I'm thinking about all the people I've lost. Bryony, Kestrel, my parents, Kip and Valdez, the officers who never knew they saved my life by dying and leaving their Bearcat behind. I'm thinking about Subject 12. About intelligent surviving infection, about what that means for the future. I'm thinking about whether there is a future worth fighting for. Day 105. Something happened today that changed everything. I was scavenging in a small town, population maybe 3,000 before the outbreak, when I heard singing. Actual singing. A child's voice. I followed the sound to a church. The doors were barred from the inside. I knocked. The singing stopped. "Hello?" I called. "I'm alive. Human, not infected." Silence. Then a small voice. "Prove it." "How?" "Infected can't answer questions, right? What's 2 plus 2? 4. What color's the sky?" "Blue." The door opened a crack. A child peered out. A girl, maybe 8 years old, with dark hair and huge eyes. "Are you alone?" I asked. She nodded. "Where are your parents?" "Gone. They told me to hide here. Said they'd come back. That was a long time ago." "How long?" "I don't know. I stopped counting days." I thought she was the only one. But then I heard more sounds from inside the church. I entered cautiously. There were 11 children. The oldest was maybe 14. The youngest couldn't have been more than 4. All orphaned, all hiding, all somehow still alive. They'd been surviving on canned food from the church's food bank, water from the baptismal font, refilled by rain through a broken window. They'd barricaded themselves inside and waited for adults to rescue them. No adults came. I stayed with them for 3 days. I couldn't just leave. I taught them how to be quiet, how to recognize infected, how to barricade properly. I brought them supplies from nearby stores. I fixed the church's defenses. On the 3rd day, the oldest kid, a boy named Thorn, asked me a question. "Are you going to take us somewhere safe?" I thought about Millhaven, about the long drive, about 11 children in a Bearcat designed for tactical operations. "I'll try," I said. It took 2 days to prepare. I modified the Bearcat's interior, removing unnecessary equipment to make space. I gathered supplies for children, smaller clothes, comfort items, food they'd actually eat. I planned the route carefully, avoiding high infection areas. We left on day 108. 11 children packed into the Bearcat like sardines, quiet and scared, but trusting me to get them somewhere safe. The drive was a nightmare. Children don't understand the need for constant silence. They cried. They argued. They asked questions. Every sound drew infected. I had to stop multiple times to deal with small groups attracted to the noise. But we made it. 3 days of driving, rationed supplies, close calls, and sheer determination. We made it to Millhaven. Devore met us at the gate. She looked at the Bearcat full of children and shook her head in disbelief. "You left to find answers and came back with 11 kids?" "Couldn't leave them." She smiled. It was the first time I'd seen her smile. "Get them inside. We'll take care of them." The children were absorbed into Millhaven quickly. Families without kids volunteered to foster. The community embraced them. They'd been living with death and darkness for so long, having children around brought something back to life. Thorn found me 3 days after our arrival. "Thank you for not leaving us." "I couldn't. A lot of people could. A lot did. But you didn't." He walked away, and I stood there thinking about what he'd said. A lot of people could. A lot did. But I didn't. Maybe that was purpose enough. Day 115. I've decided to stay in Millhaven. Not forever. Not necessarily. But for now, they need people. The children need stability. And I need to stop running. I've taken up a new role, long-range scouting. I take the Bearcat out for week-long trips, mapping the region, finding resources, contacting other survivor groups, and bringing back supplies. It's dangerous. Every trip could be my last. But it's useful. It's purpose. On my second scouting trip, I found another community. This one was larger, maybe 400 people. built around a dam that still generated electricity. They had lights, heat, the beginnings of industry. They were willing to trade power for food and medicine. This connection changed everything for Millhaven. We established a supply line, trade routes, regular communication. The two communities started working together, sharing knowledge and resources. More communities joined. Within a month, there were 6 groups coordinating. We called it the Northern Network. Not a government, not a nation. Just survivors helping each other survive. Day 130. Winter arrived. Snow covers everything. The infected slow down in the cold. Their bodies freeze, their movements become sluggish. It's the safest we've been since the outbreak. But winter brings new challenges. Heat, food, isolation when roads become impassable. We're burning through our stockpiled wood fast. The greenhouses are struggling despite insulation efforts. 3 people died from pneumonia this month. We buried them outside the walls, far from the town, markers made from wooden crosses. The children I rescued are adapting. The younger ones barely remember life before. The older ones remember too much. Thorn has nightmares. I hear him sometimes through the thin walls of the communal house, crying out in his sleep. I have nightmares too. About Subject 12 mostly. About infected that think and plan and coordinate. About what happens when evolution favors intelligence. But these nightmares are balanced by moments of hope. Children laughing, people singing. Couples falling in love, despite the apocalypse. A baby born 3 days ago, the first birth in Millhaven since the outbreak. They named her Dawn. Day 150. Midwinter. I'm writing this during a blizzard. The wind howls against the Bearcat. I'm parked outside the walls on a scouting run, waiting out the storm. Inside the vehicle, it's freezing despite the heater running on minimal power to conserve fuel. This trip has been harder than most. The roads are treacherous with ice. The infected are frozen in place in some areas, literally statues of horror locked in mid-reach. I saw one frozen in the act of climbing a fence, body crystallized at an angle that would be impossible for living muscle. I've been thinking about the passage of time. It's been 5 months since the world ended. 5 months feels both like an eternity and like yesterday. I can barely remember the person I was before. The installer who complained about traffic and worried about rent and thought his biggest problems were relationship drama and career stagnation. That person is dead. Whoever I am now was born in the back of a stolen police vehicle, surrounded by the moaning dead, choosing to survive when suicide would have been easier. The storm is getting worse. I should sleep. Tomorrow I pushed for the eastern communities and then loop back to Millhaven. If I'm lucky, I'll be home in 4 days. Home. When did I start thinking of Millhaven as home? Day 163. Something's wrong. I returned to Millhaven yesterday to find the community on edge. 3 people disappeared during a scavenging run. They were experienced, armed, and cautious. They wouldn't have made stupid mistakes. Search parties found no trace, no blood, no bodies, no signs of struggle. Just gone. Devora assembled the leadership. Herself, Brant, Jericho, and a few others. They asked me to attend. "You've traveled more than anyone," Devora said. "You've seen more. Have you encountered anything that could explain this?" I thought about Subject 12, about intelligence, about infected that might be learning. "Maybe," I said. And I told them what I'd found at Fort Bellamy. The research, the evolved infected, the possibility that some of them were adapting. The room erupted. Some people called me a liar. Others demanded to know why I'd kept this secret. Brent just sat quietly, processing. When the noise died down, she spoke. If what Dalton says is true, we're facing a different kind of threat. Not mindless feeding machines, but strategic predators. We don't know that's what took our people, Devora countered. No, but we can't rule it out. We need to increase security, change our patterns, assume we're being watched and hunted. The meeting ended with new protocols. No one travels alone. Scavenging teams go armed and radio in every hour. The walls get reinforced. Guards double their watch rotations. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those 3 missing people, about what might have taken them, about Subject 12 saying, "Help me," in that ruined voice. What if they were organizing? What if the virus was creating something new, not just infected, but intelligent infected? Predators that could plan and coordinate. What if we were already losing a war we didn't know we were fighting? Day 170. More disappearances. 2 people this time, taken from their house in the middle of the night. The door was barred from the inside. The windows were secured. But they were gone. No screams, no sounds of struggle. Just empty beds in the morning. Panic is spreading through Millhaven. People are demanding answers. Some want to abandon the town. Others want to fortify and prepare for siege. I volunteered to investigate. I took the Bearcat and drove the perimeter of Millhaven, looking for tracks, signs, anything unusual. I found them half a mile from town. Footprints in the snow. Human-shaped, but the gate was wrong. Too wide, too irregular. And there were too many of them. At least 20 sets of prints, all converging on Millhaven from different directions, then diverging again. They'd been surrounding us, watching, learning our patterns. I followed one set of tracks. They led into the forest, through difficult terrain, to a cave system I didn't know existed. I should have turned back, should have reported what I found and let someone else investigate. But I needed to know. I needed to see. I entered the cave with my rifle and flashlight. The tunnel was narrow, winding downward. I could smell decay, that familiar sweet rot of infected bodies. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber. I shone my light around and immediately wished I hadn't. Bodies, dozens of them, all human, all recent, stacked against the walls like cordwood. Some I recognized, Millhaven residents. Others were strangers. And in the center of the chamber, sitting on a throne made of bones and debris, was Subject 12. I recognized it immediately, despite the months of decay. The same intelligent eyes. The same awareness. It spoke. "You came back." I raised my rifle. "What did you do to these people?" "Brought them home." "Home? This is a slaughterhouse." "No, changed them, made them better. Like me." The bodies against the walls stirred. Not all dead. Some were transforming. Infected but conscious. Aware. Their eyes tracked me with horrible intelligence. "You're making more of yourself." "Yes, we are. Evolution. Survival. The future." I backed toward the tunnel. "Your abominations." "We are what you made us. Your research, your virus, your weapons. We are your children." I ran. I didn't shoot. I didn't fight. I just ran back through the tunnel to the Bearcat and drove. Behind me, I could hear them emerging from the cave. Coordinated, organized, hunting. I made it to Millhaven and sounded the alarm. The town mobilized. Every able person armed themselves. We sealed the gates. We prepared for war. They came at dusk, not shambling, not mindless. They moved with purpose, spreading out, surrounding the town, testing our defenses at multiple points simultaneously. We fought them off, barely. The military weapons I'd brought from Fort Bellamy made the difference. But we lost people. 6 dead, 12 wounded, and we knew this was just the first attack. Subject 12's words haunted me. We are evolution. The infected were learning, adapting, becoming something worse than mindless predators. They were becoming us. Day 180, 6 months since the outbreak. Millhaven is under siege. Not constant attack, but regular probing. The evolved infected, we call them carriers now, because they carry intelligence, test our defenses every few days. They're learning from each attempt, adjusting tactics. We've sent messengers to the other communities in the northern network, warning them, asking for help. 3 communities have sent reinforcements. 40 more fighters, more ammunition, more supplies. But it might not be enough. Colonel Brandt has taken command of defense operations. She's military through and through, and this is war. She's organized firing lines, established kill zones, set up overlapping fields of fire. The children have been moved to the center of town, to the most fortified building. Thorne asked if he could help fight. I told him no. He's 14. He should be worrying about homework and girls, not fighting intelligent zombies. But there is no normal anymore. There's only survival. Tonight, I'm on watch. 4-hour shift on the eastern wall. It's cold, clear, stars overhead. In another life, this would be beautiful. Instead, I'm watching the tree line, rifle ready, waiting for the next attack, movement. There, just at the edge of my vision. I radio it in. Contact, eastern perimeter, multiple hostiles. They're coming again. Day 185. We broke the siege. It wasn't through force. We couldn't have won that way. They had numbers, coordination, and no fear of death because they were already dead. It was through strategy. Brandt's idea. We knew where their cave was. We knew they gathered there between attacks. So we collapsed it. A team of 6, including me, drove out in the Bearcat and 2 other vehicles. We brought explosives, homemade mostly, constructed from materials scavenged from a mining operation. We placed charges at 3 points around the cave entrance, set timers, drove away. The explosion shook the ground. The tunnel system collapsed. Tons of rock sealed the entrance and likely crushed anyone inside. We didn't get them all. Some carriers were outside when it happened, but we got Subject 12. I saw it in the cave entrance seconds before detonation, watching us with those intelligent eyes. It didn't try to escape. It just watched, like it knew this was inevitable. The remaining carriers lost their coordination after that. They scattered, became more like regular infected, dangerous but predictable. We hunted them down over the next week, eliminated everyone we could find. Millhaven is safe again, for now. But the knowledge remains. The infected can evolve, can adapt, can become something worse. And if it happened once, it can happen again. Day 200. I'm leaving Millhaven again, not running this time. Volunteering. The Northern Network is establishing a research outpost. They want to study the carriers, understand the evolution, maybe find a way to prevent it. I'm leading the security team, 6 people, all volunteers, all aware this might be suicide. We're setting up at an abandoned research facility north of Fort Bellamy, isolated, defensible, far from populated areas in case something goes wrong. I said goodbye to the children today. They've grown in the last few months, adapted. The younger ones barely remember the terror of that church. The older ones, like Thorne, carry scars, but they're healing. Thorne gave me a journal. "Write things down," he said, "like you used to. So if something happens, people will know." I'm writing now, in the Bearcat, on the road to the research facility. 6 people depending on me to keep them safe while they try to understand the nightmare. I don't know if we'll succeed. I don't know if anyone can understand what the virus has become. But we have to try. Because if we don't, the evolved infected will spread, will multiply, will eventually overwhelm us. The future of humanity might depend on what we learn in that facility. No pressure. Day 210. The research facility is operational. We've secured the perimeter, established living quarters, set up communication with Millhaven and the network. The scientists, 3 of them, all survivors with relevant backgrounds, have begun their work. They're studying samples collected from dead carriers. Tissue, blood, brain matter. Looking for what changed, what made them different from regular infected. I watch them work and try not to think about the fact that we're handling biological weapons in a facility with questionable safety protocols. One of the scientists, a woman named Dr. Sable, explained it to me. The virus mutates. That's normal. But this mutation seems targeted, like it's selecting for intelligence, for consciousness retention. That shouldn't be possible with random mutation. What are you saying? I'm saying this might not be natural. The virus might have been engineered to do this. Weaponized. Possibly. The original strain might have been designed to create soldiers, fast, aggressive, fearless. But an unintended consequence was this intelligence retention in rare cases. Subject 12 wasn't an anomaly. It was the prototype for something deliberate. I thought about Fort Bellamy, about classified research, about weapons development. We did this to ourselves. Probably. And now we're trying to fix it. Day 220. Dr. Sable made a breakthrough. The intelligence retention is linked to a specific genetic marker. Not everyone who gets infected develops consciousness. Only about 1 in 10,000. But those who do become carriers. Intelligent, aware, able to learn and adapt. Can it be stopped? I asked. Theoretically. If we could develop a suppressant that targets this genetic expression, we might prevent consciousness retention while leaving the body infected. Living infected that can't think? Yes. Still dangerous. Still deadly. But manageable. Predictable. How long until you can test this? Months. Maybe years. We need equipment, resources, test subjects. Test subjects? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Day 230. Something went wrong. One of the research assistants, a young man named Fenn, was exposed to contaminated samples. We don't know how. A broken seal, a tear in his gloves, some tiny breach in protocol. He showed symptoms within 12 hours, fever, tremors, delirium. We quarantined him immediately, locked him in a containment cell, watched him deteriorate. He died on day 232, then reanimated 4 hours later. But he didn't become a regular infected. He became a carrier. I watched through the observation window as he sat up, looked around, and spoke. What happened to me? Dr. Sable's voice was shaking. Fenn, do you remember who you are? I was Fenn. Now I'm something else. I can feel it. The hunger, the change, but I'm still here. Still thinking. We're going to try to help you. No. Kill me, please. Before I become what they are. Before I lose what's left. We debated for 6 hours. Could we use him as a test subject? Could we study the transformation in real time? Could we learn something that might save others? Or was it more merciful to grant his request? Dr. Sable made the decision. We would try to help him. Use the experimental suppressant, see if we could halt the progression. It didn't work. The suppressant slowed the transformation, but didn't stop it. Over 3 days, we watched Fenn lose his humanity piece by piece. His speech degraded. His reasoning failed. His awareness flickered and died. On day 235, what was left of Fenn attacked the observation window, snarling and clawing. No intelligence remained, just hunger. I shot him, clean, quick, through the reinforced glass. Dr. Sable cried. I'd never seen her show emotion before. But she cried for Fenn, for the failure, for the knowledge that we were still nowhere close to a solution. Day 250. I've been at the research facility for 50 days. The work continues. Dr. Sable and her team are persistent, brilliant, dedicated. They've made progress, understanding transmission vectors, mapping the virus's structure, identifying potential suppressant compounds. But progress is slow, and the world outside continues to collapse. Reports from the Northern Network tell of more carrier outbreaks, small groups, isolated incidents, but growing. The virus is creating more of them. Evolution in action. Some communities have fallen, overrun not by mindless hordes, but by coordinated attacks from intelligent infected. The dead learning to hunt the living. I've been sending reports back to Millhaven, updates on the research, warnings about what we're learning, trying to prepare them for what might be coming. Devora responds regularly. She tells me the town is stable. The children are thriving. Thorn asks about me. Wants to know when I'm coming back. I don't have an answer. Day 270. Winter is ending. The snow is melting. The infected are becoming active again. And we've observed something terrifying. The carriers are grouping, not just in small packs like we saw before. Large groups, coordinated over distances. They're communicating somehow. We don't know how. Pheromones, maybe. Or sounds outside human hearing range. Or something else we haven't identified. They're organizing, building. We've observed structures, crude but deliberate. Shelters, barricades. One group even appears to be farming in a disturbing way, keeping living humans captive, harvesting them periodically. They're becoming a civilization, a dark mirror of humanity. Dr. Sable's theory is that this was always the end point. The virus was designed to create soldiers, but it created a new species. One that thinks, one that adapts, one that might eventually replace us. What do we do? I asked her. We keep working, we find a cure, or we accept that humanity's time is over. I refuse to accept that. I've survived too much, fought too hard, lost too many people. There has to be a way to win this war. Day 300, 1 year since the outbreak. I'm writing this from Millhaven. I returned 3 days ago for the anniversary commemoration. The community gathered to remember the dead, to honor the survivors, to acknowledge how far we've come. 230 people live here now. The Northern Network has grown to 12 communities, maybe 2,000 survivors total, connected by trade and communication and mutual defense. It's not civilization, not yet, but it's a start. The children I rescued are doing well. Thorn is nearly 15 now, tall and serious, training with the defense forces. The youngest, a boy named Pip, barely remembers life before. He was 3 when I found him. He's 4 now, and the apocalypse is normal to him. That breaks my heart in ways I can't explain. After the commemoration, Devora pulled me aside. Are you staying? I should get back to the facility. The research will continue without you. Dr. Sable has a team. They're brilliant. You've done your part. What are you saying? I'm saying Millhaven needs you here. Not as a soldier or a scout. As someone who's been through this from the beginning. Someone the people trust. Someone who can help us rebuild. I don't know how to rebuild. None of us do. But we figure it out together. I'm thinking about her words now. About staying. About letting go of the search for answers and just living. Is that giving up, or is that survival? Day 305, I made my decision. I'm staying in Millhaven. I told Dr. Sable. She understood. She even seemed relieved. Said she was worried I was burning out, that I needed rest. Maybe she's right. I've taken a new role. Community educator. Teaching people skills they'll need. Not just survival skills, those they have. But knowledge, history, science, literature. Trying to preserve what we were while adapting to what we've become. Thorn is my most dedicated student. He wants to understand everything. How the world worked, what we lost, what we might rebuild. Sometimes I catch him reading my journals, the pages I've written over the last year. I should probably stop him. They're personal, raw, but maybe it's good that someone knows the full story. Day 350. Dr. Sable radioed with news. They've developed a working suppressant. Not a cure, the infected remain infected. But it prevents consciousness retention, stops carriers from forming. It's not perfect. It requires administration before infection. It's a preventive, not a treatment. But it's something. The Northern Network is manufacturing it, distributing it to all communities. Anyone who might be exposed, scavengers, guards, scouts, gets inoculated. It won't stop the existing carriers, but it might prevent new ones. It's the first real hope we've had. Day 400, I'm still here, still alive. The seasons are changing again. Another winter approaching. Millhaven is preparing, stockpiling food, insulating buildings, reinforcing heat systems. The Bearcat sits in the motor pool. I don't drive it much anymore. Don't need to. The roads are more secure now. Trade routes established. The infected threat is manageable. We've even had births. 6 babies in the last 3 months. New life in a world of death. Thorn asked me a question yesterday. Do you think we'll ever go back to normal? No, I said. Normal is gone, but we're building something new. Maybe something better. Better than before. Before had a lot of problems. War, inequality, environmental destruction. We can learn from those mistakes. Build differently. You really believe that? I have to. He smiled. Me too. Day 500. The network is expanding. We've made contact with communities across the region. 23 groups now, over 5,000 survivors. We're establishing government, not like before, but something new. Democratic, decentralized, based on cooperation rather than control. There are still threats. Carriers, raiders, resource scarcity. But we're managing, surviving, growing. I teach classes every day now. History, science, ethics. Trying to pass on knowledge to a generation that will rebuild the world. Sometimes I think about the person I was before. The security installer who thought traffic jams were a crisis. Who worried about rent and relationships and career advancement. That person is gone. Dead with the old world. The person I am now was forged in steel and fire and terror. Hardened by loss. Tempered by survival. I don't know if I'm better. But I'm alive. And I'm trying to help others stay alive. Maybe that's enough. Day 600. I'm writing this final entry. Not because I'm dying, Not because I'm giving up, but because the story has reached a natural conclusion. The world ended. We survived. We're rebuilding. The infected remain. Always will, probably. The virus is endemic now, part of the ecosystem. But we've learned to manage it, to live alongside the threat. The Northern Network has grown into something resembling civilization. We have agriculture, industry, education, government, culture. We're creating new traditions, new holidays, new stories. The children I rescued are young adults now. Thorn is 17, training to become a community leader. Pip is 7, growing up in a world that's dangerous but stable. Dawn, the first baby born in Millhaven, is learning to walk. Life continues. Different than before. Harder in some ways, richer in others. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe we'll reclaim the cities. Maybe we'll develop a cure. Maybe we'll just continue existing in this new normal, adapting, surviving, growing. But we're here. We're alive. And as long as we're alive, there's hope. The Bearcat sits in the garage. I visit it sometimes. Run my hand along the armored panels. Remember those first terrifying days when it was my only shelter? It saved my life, repeatedly. But I don't need it anymore. I have a community now, a purpose, people who depend on me and people I depend on. I have a home. It's more than I ever thought I'd have when the world ended. My name is Dalton Reese. I'm 30 years old. I survived the apocalypse, and I'm still here, still fighting, still hoping, still alive. The journal entries end there, but the story doesn't. Stories never really end. They just pause, waiting for someone to pick them up again. Dalton Reese continued teaching, continued building, continued being a cornerstone of Millhaven and the Northern Network. He never forgot those first 50 days alone in the Bearcat. Never forgot the fear and the darkness and the desperate struggle for survival. But he also never let those memories define him. He chose to be more than a survivor. He chose to be a builder, a teacher, a guardian. The infected remained. The carriers occasionally appeared, though the suppressant kept them rare. Raiders sometimes threatened the communities. Winter was always harsh, food was often scarce. But humanity persisted, adapted, survived. And in the quiet moments, when Dalton sat alone with his thoughts, he sometimes wondered about all the other survivors out there. All the other people who'd fought through that first terrible year. All the other stories of courage and terror and desperate hope. The world had ended, but people remained. And as long as people remained, the world could be rebuilt. One day at a time. One choice at a time, one act of courage at a time. The apocalypse taught Dalton many things, but the most important lesson was this. Survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about finding reasons to live. Purpose, community, hope. And he'd found all three. The Bearcat sat unused in the garage, a monument to where he'd been. But Dalton's eyes were always forward now, toward where he was going, toward the future, toward tomorrow, toward whatever came next. He was ready.